many fans and players, hockey's more than just a sport, it's a lifestyle. All of that was taken away when Gary Bettman announced that the lockout would begin on October 1st, 1994.
The board has, as a result of the meeting, authorized me to make a counter-proposal to the NHLPA that we're making tries to incorporate as much as possible the players' last offer to the league.
It's like Elastic Man who's made clothes for him.
Although the 1994 to 1995 National Hockey League lockout angered fans and players alike, the conflict brought a compromise with better labor conditions within the league. Hockey was lost for 104 days and was the first major cancellation in NHL history.
Downtown Toronto, and a couple of days later the lockout was started. We didn't really know what to do. We didn't know what to expect. We had gone through a full training camp and full exhibition schedule, and we were just told that we're not allowed to go to the rink. And
The difference between a lockout and a strike is the fact that a lockout is imposed by management or owners. However, a strike is initiated by the employees or players. Previously to the 1994-1995 NHL lockout, there was a strike initiated by the players just before playoffs in 1992. By 1994, the NHL had changed tremendously through rules and the addition of 20 new teams. Many years ago, hockey became a prominent and beloved game for many, many people to play. The National Hockey League was founded on November 26, 1917 at the Windsor Hotel in Montreal, Canada. The NHL started with only 6 teams, including the Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, and Toronto Maple Leafs. Gary Bettman is the commissioner of the National Hockey League, also known as the NHL, and has held this post since February 1st, 1993. Previously, Bettman was a senior vice president and general counsel to the National Basketball Association. Gary Bettman played a crucial part in the 1994-1995 lockout and still has an impact on the NHL to this day. Bob Goodnow was an American lawyer who served as the executive director of the National Hockey League Players Association, also known as the NHLPA, from 1992 until his resignation on July 28, 2005. These rules and regulations are also known as the CBA, the Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Gary Bettman announced the lockout because he refused to start a season without agreeing on rules and regulations with the NHLPA.
Gary Bettman of the NHL and Bob Goodnow of the NHLPA could not agree on the rules and regulations of the CBA. Bettman refused to start the season until an agreement would be reached. The collective bargaining agreement is a contract made by the NHL and the NHLPA that regards the rules and regulations of the NHL.
We start in the year 1994. September 30th, the young commissioner, Gary Bettman, announces the first NHL lockout. October 15th marked the start of the delayed schedule. However, they still had not reached an agreement yet.
The owner proposed a payroll tax as well as a salary cap to reduce the annual costs and to have a larger profit. This would also support teams with a low income. The NHLPA obviously opposed this proposal. The NHLPA suggested the top revenue-producing teams to share 5% of their profits into a pool that would be split amongst the bottom revenue-producing teams. However, the NHL again opposed this proposal. With no end to the lockout in sight, Wayne Gretzky, arguably the greatest NHL player of all time, and fellow players would play pickup with teammates or simply train at home and wait for the problem to be resolved.
the manager for the Kings got on the phone and said to me, there's a lot of rules when you're a young player in the National Hockey League, and I did not have to clear waivers. Therefore, I could go to the Kings farm team, which was Phoenix, Arizona, and go play there in the American Hockey League, which it didn't matter. I was allowed to go play down there. So packed my stuff and broke my lease and took my car, and everything was shipped out to Phoenix, Arizona.
December 2nd, 1994, several months into the lockout. The owners and NHLPA once again exchanged proposals.
In an attempt to compromise with the NHL, the NHLPA proposed a salary cap only to be imposed on NHL rookies. Of course, the NHLPA did not want anything to do with salary caps and declined.
Just 4 days later, on December 6th, it seemed like there was a little progress, but the negotiations were still at a standstill.
On December 29th, Gary Bettman informs the NHLPA the regular season must start by January 16 in order to have a 50-game season and full playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of guys did. A lot of guys wanted to, go overseas and play because they wanted to be able to make a living. We were not getting paid, so going back to the question before, if you had a wife and kids and you wanted to make a salary and you have things to pay for, then you had to go overseas and you were not allowed to play in the minors, so you had to go and play in in Switzerland, Germany, Russia, Finland, Sweden. So a lot of guys went overseas, especially the big names, because they're obviously big names, they're attractive.
By January 11th, 1995, 103 days into the lockout, the NHL and NHLPA finally negotiate to a deal. The 6-year deal includes a rookie salary cap as well as agreements on free agency and salary arbitration. On January 20th, 1995, the NHL begins the regular season with a shortened 48-game schedule instead of 82. A total of 468 games were lost due to the lockout, along with the highly coveted All-Star game. In conclusion of the 1994-1995 NHL lockout, the NHLPA and NHL were able to compromise. Players got what they wanted by having their salaries disclosed and a share in licensing, such as player cards, and the owners wanted a hard cap or luxury tax but were not able to achieve that. However, they did agree on future expansion, which would put a lot of money in owners' pockets, which would also create more jobs for players. Years later, there would be more lockouts, such as the 2004-2005 NHL lockout, which would cancel the whole season. There would also be another lockout in 2012 and 2013 regarding more issues with the collective bargaining agreement.